Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Band from Ringside.
Tonight on the Band from Ringside podcast, we recap the Hell in the Cell from last Sunday. We give you a pair of good Wednesday night shows, NXT going first and then AEW. We're also going to talk about the state of Raw and SmackDown. I mean, Miz has the money in the bank now. It's like somebody was listening to me. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Band from Ringside podcast.
Shit, with all these downloads we get, everybody's listening to you.
That's exactly right, bro.
Everybody's listening.
Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Band from Ringside podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. I'm starting with the hand in the mirror. I'm asking him to break kayfabe. And sitting right next to me, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
That shit was hot. Bow your heads, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a little off key.
Fuck that. Bow your heads as we open up and I read from the latest edition of the Band from Ringside podcast, volume 179, chapter 3, verse 14 of the Good Smart saith, hashtag boo the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Apparently, it is National Cat Day. If so, shout out to my tag team champion, the Cats, Billy and Lucifer. I love you, little baby Goo-Goo. Baby Goo-Goo.
That's my bit, dude. You're doing my bit now? You're doing my Reba bit with your cats?
It's my baby Goo-Goo. I love him. I say he seen me break down the last couple months. Shit, I can be a little softer up. Outside of that, business as usual. I love the AKA. That shit was goddamn funny. Something else I'm thinking I'm forgetting. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm sure it'll come back to me.
It'll come back to you.
Over
Over there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beers. Zach Pullman. What's going on, Two Beer?
Not much, man. Just sitting on my porch with a nice cold beer and a feeling of existential dread. Typical Thursday.
Particularly a Thursday right before the election. We are coming at you from, Jason and I at least, are coming at you from dreary South City, St. Louis. It has been a rainy couple days, boys.
Yeah, no shit.
It feels like Halloween, though, man. This is awesome.
True story. No, true story. I was going to say, if there's anything,
fall.
yeah, I was going to say, I knew you were going to say that. I was driving over here, and I was like, I'm getting ready to pull up, and I'm like, I could see Two Beer outside on the porch, waiting for me to pull up so we can start this joker, drinking a beer, probably in some shorts or some nonsense. I'm over here bundled up, with like 3 shirts on, a sweatshirt. I'm like, man, this shit is going to suck for the next 4 months, man.
Zach and I are from a cold weather people, though.
I know.
The Germans.
The equator, ain't nothing cold about that, baby.
So before we get too far into it, Jason, before you get into F&B Eatery, before we get into the wrestling, I got to tell our audience and Zach that I think Jason and I were actually yelling at each other Friday night. Were we yelling at each other drunk at the bar?
Well, hang on. First and foremost, allow us to just make sure that we put this out there that the bar has nothing to do with anything, okay? I think this was just
a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. I think this was just normal what we do, and it got a little heated, but I mean, we hugged it out like usual.
What were we talking about? We were talking about baseball?
Does baseball or basketball deserve the asterisks for the
champion this year?
Yeah.
And I said that baseball does, basketball doesn't.
Should not.
And you disagree with that?
Totally.
Oh, my God.
Start again. Start over.
No, I was getting ready to say I'm within arm's distance of him this time around.
Yeah, he's not sitting somewhere else. Jason, why don't you tell us about F&B Eatery?
F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and Marquette. Home of the smash burger you never heard of. Let's go take care of that. Slide on into the BFR Pod DMs. I have your gift cards available. Did it myself personally. I should have brought them over, but I forgot about it. And I was going to just to make sure that I'm not the only one. So, don't think I'm lying about this. So, it's like the physical evidence, when they pull you over, they want you to, pull out the ID, the insurance card. And if you're me, you better make sure that the hands are on the wheel. But that's another story for another time. So I'm telling you, please slide on in. Like I said, if you did the okra bit, you can get your gift card. If you just want a gift card in your local, come on to the BFR DMs. We can get you a gift card. So that way you can try the best smash burger you've never heard of. Or if you've had it, you can go get another one. F&B Eatery.
Can I get a gift card?
No. You're not a look. I got a sweatshirt for you, man. You don't get gift cards. You get sweatshirts. Okay, you get.
Somebody wants a BFR sweatshirt. I'll trade you for. No, I'm joking.
That's fucked up. I was getting ready to say, if you do, make sure it's an extra large. Okay,
That's fucking hilarious.
right. F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and Marquette. Tell them that Bam from Ringside sent you.
Let's get to that 3 counts.
1, 2, 3.
JCB, what's the 1 count?
The crazy part about it is when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, I totally forgot that this happened on Sunday. And I was like, oh, yeah, this happened. Hell in a Cell on Sunday. Some good, some bad. I don't think that there was too much gray area. If either you like matches or you didn't like matches, it was pretty hard or pretty easy to tell. I think what they wanted to invest in, what storylines they were walking forward with, and others that they were not. For me, the biggest takeaway for Hell in a Cell, wow, I'm gonna go Bailey Sasha. I think Sasha it's time to start putting some respect on Sasha's name. I know a lot of people are sour on Sasha for whatever reason. I'll just say this: what I saw on Sunday was what I like to see, what I expect to see from Sasha. She's one of the 4 horsewomen, one of the name women on the roster, and her and Bailey basically pulled out a knockdown, bang-out performance, arguably one of the best Hell in a Cell women's matches I've ever seen, and could have been the match of the night depending on if you like storyline outside of the ring.
Yeah, your mileage may vary, but
yeah, well, I was going to say, there's people that like Jay and Roman, and I totally get it. If you like the storyline, you know what I'm saying? I totally get it.
That was definitely a story that they were telling.
Okay, and I totally get it. If you like in-ring action, Bailey and Sasha to me was probably the best match of the night. But I don't have a problem with anybody saying Roman or Jay. I totally get that too. That was probably the second biggest takeaway, is how all in it feels with Roman. Now they're really starting to lean into the Samoan dynasty, the fact that he's the head of the table, all roads finally do lead through Roman, like we were saying back in the Shock City days. So now that to me is, and I said it, and I can't believe I'm getting ready to say this out loud and put this into existence, but if it doesn't happen, I'll be stunned. If this is not going to end up being Rock versus Reigns at next year's 2021 WrestleMania, whatever number that is, I think it's 37, I will be absolutely stunned. This makes it's literally like they didn't mean to do it, but now that they're on this track, this is the payoff that has to happen, at least in my eyes. And as a huge Rock fan, I don't want to see Roman Reigns beat The Rock, but if we're going to go this route and we're going to take it the whole way, we need to have that match, and Reigns has to go over.
So let's take this Hell in a Cell match by Hell in a Cell match, okay? Zach, would you rather talk about Sasha Bailey or Jay Roman first?
We can just go in order of appearance.
Okay. What were your thoughts on Jay Roman?
Like a continuation of the story. I like the general story. The first match got over real huge, and I really liked it. Obviously, that's why they did another match, was because it ended up being so good. But like, you did kind of kill the gimmick, because the whole thing of the last match, the whole story of the last match was this guy doesn't quit. So then you have an I quit match, and I get that. But like, it's just more of like the not quitting. It was just very, very long. The performances were great. Like Roman being a total psychopath and like, or sociopath, and like crying in the ring, and then just like going full on like cold-blooded mode. But like, I think the best analogy for this match, and also like every other Hell in a Cell match that was tonight, and I know why they did it, because they only had 5 matches on the card and you had to fill up like 3 hours or whatever. But I don't know if you guys have ever like paid for Pornhub, or maybe at the beginning of the pandemic you cashed in, logged in on an account because they were actually giving it away for free. Like all those videos you usually watch like every day, or maybe not every day, but the videos that I watch every day, they're much longer, like on the premium version. So they're like 30 to 40 minutes, but they don't have to be. You get the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, I'm not looking for 30 or 40 minutes of
7 to 20 minutes. Like these were all like
7's pushing it.
Premium. It was all like paying for premium porn. Were the performers great? Absolutely. Did they do their jobs well? Oh, for sure. But I didn't need so much of it, right? It seemed like they were all just like pretty long.
In the corner they have like the minutes, like how long the video is, right?
Are you talking about Roman, Jey Uso in particular, or are you talking about just having 3 cell matches?
No, I just think that each of the cell matches suffered from the same issue. Like they all had really good stories, and I liked all of the matches, and the performances were all really good. But this was like, it opened up, and I was like, this thing's like still going, and I was like into it. It didn't like feel like it dragged, but like it definitely took a long time to get like this story across. But
it certainly did, and I would agree with on 2 of the 3 matches. I didn't think that Bayley and Sasha was too long. I thought Bayley and Sasha was stupendous. It exceeded my expectations. I think it exceeded the last cell match that Sasha was in, which was versus Charlotte Flair, which was also a really good match.
Great.
I think that was the same night that New Day fought the Usos, which was also a great match. I thought that this pay-per-view, which brother-in-law Steve and I were checking in throughout the night, but we were also watching football and stuff. I went back and watched the whole thing today. I thought it was had some very satisfying endings. And I thought that the Roman Jey Uso story of him saying, if I beat you, if you say I quit, you basically have to be my reluctant warriors because that's what our heritage is about. I think that that's a really interesting story, and it's going to be interesting, I agree with Jason, when they bring The Rock into it, which seems that's the way that if they don't, I mean, that's a big cash-in, Rock versus Roman Reigns. If they bring The Rock into it, that's a perfect story to tell. Just an absolute perfect story to tell for The Rock.
Vince should spend that XFL money on some goddamn virus relief. And
see,
The Rock's not coming to WrestleMania with no fans.
Well, that's true. That's true. That is definitely true. And, WrestleMania is still 5 months away. And, if everybody flattens the curve here for the next couple weeks, I think that we'll be able to have some fans at WrestleMania 5 months away. That's a joke.
Right.
But I thought the story that they told was incredible. Roman's acting was incredible. Roman was legitimately crying.
You think so?
Oh yeah, that wasn't.
I couldn't tell if that was crocodile tears or not.
No, I mean I don't know if it was real or kayfabe, but there were tears coming out of his eyes.
Okay, I couldn't tell because I was going to say between the sweat and lights, it looked like maybe not. I couldn't personally tell.
This has been the best thing going in WWE. Roman as a full-fledged heel is what I mean. Seriously, let's not give him too much credit. This is what we've been calling for since the fucking podcast started.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't mean that they execute it right or well. Better choice of your word.
They're executing it well here.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. We call for a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that they do it the way that we think we should, or we think we want them to do it, or the way they should do it. This has been done really well. Even if it was 45 minutes, and I didn't even know it was 45 minutes until...
No, it wasn't, was it?
Michael said it was 45 minutes, close to. I don't know. Don't care.
I think it might have been 45 minutes from the start
to the finish.
I think it went like 30.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Maybe from 7 to 7:45.
That's really long.
Okay, but even still, I didn't recognize it was 45 minutes until somebody else said, oh, yeah, this match was so long, it was, X amount of minutes. I was like, oh, really? Well, shit. I must not have realized. That's how good, once again, they told this story to the point where I needed to see Roman go up to the top of the ramp where the Wild Samoans are here. Here's your leg. This is basically, photo op. Paul off on the side the way he should be. They did it I hate to use the word perfect, but if it wasn't perfect, it was real close to it.
I mean, if the outcome of the match is not in question,
And it shouldn't
at
be.
all,
And it shouldn't be.
and it wasn't. But if the outcome of the match is not in question, there's a few things you have to do. You have to tell a good story, and you have to give the people something that they weren't expecting to see. And also, what I'll give them kudos for is, in the Thunderdome, without having live fans there, they have really taken advantage of being able to use words, to be verbal in these matches, and have the referee when Roman grabbed the referee by the back of the neck, he's like, don't ask him. No, don't call the match. I mean, that was really good. And also the thing that you want to see is the guy who is obviously going to lose in Jey Uso be elevated by the feud. And there's no doubt that Jey Uso has been elevated by this feud. Do you agree, Zach?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think it's been fantastic. And, I'll give credit where credit's due. Like, I'm not a WWE hater. I want it to be good. I want it all to be like this.
What in the fuck? Whoa.
Did he just say he's not a WWE hater?
Hey, what's your favorite shot? What was the shots we were doing in Edwardsville?
We were drinking, what are you talking about, fireballs?
Okay, just making sure you ain't no spy. I'll say you might be one of them.
So it was very, very good. It'll be interesting to see where they go. I guess they're going to be able to take a breather. It's going to be Orton versus Reigns at Survivor Series. I think they've announced it, right?
They announced it, but then when Drew comes out at the end of Raw and they get into the usual scrum before
the end.
And apparently Drew poked Randy Orton in the eye with a pen and we missed it. Anyway, that's just... Don't be surprised you see Drew McIntyre, I guess. That's where I'm going with this.
In that match? Versus both of them?
I don't get it either, but...
I mean, I'd be cool with that.
No. There's no need. Okay, back me up on this one too, Beer. Is there really a need for Drew McIntyre to be in a champion versus champion match? Can you not wait until whatever the December pay-per-view is and do the rematch for Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they should stick to a formula, and it's a real big bummer. And we'll talk about this in the weeks to come, but it seems that this COVID stuff is keeping NXT off of Survivor Series. Either that or Vince is just done with the brand, because last year's Survivor Series was actually interesting.
Yes.
Because of NXT's involvement, and now there's not a single mention of that being a thing.
There's actually...
would definitely add...
Sorry, go ahead.
I just said that would definitely add some life into, this pay-per-view and make it more than just that stupid gimmick where they keep telling us it's the one time a year where Raw and SmackDown meet, even though we literally just had a draft, and so we're essentially just seeing the same matches that we've seen over the past 9 months.
I don't know why they keep beating that dead horse, except to say that Vince probably thinks that it's true. They've had the last few Survivor Series have been interesting. The one with NXT was super interesting, but they had the one where Orton and Wyatt were the last two finalists in that great match. They had one where Triple H, we watched it at John Jones's house. You remember that one?
Yeah, vaguely. Feels like 2 years ago, give or take.
We were fucked up.
Yeah, buddy. I'll just say this. Just on the NXT part, we should have had that inkling that something was going left at the draft when NXT a year ago was a part of the draft, and now a year later they're not. Same thing now with...
I don't even remember that. They were part of the draft?
They were a part of the draft.
Ooh.
And now, a year later, they're not. And that was kind of a talking point going into the draft. So now the same thing is happening with Survivor Series. Who wouldn't want to see Asuka versus Sasha versus Io Shirai in a triple threat match? That shit just makes me giggle just thinking about it. And now... a year ago we had that, and now a year later we're not doing that. So I agree with Two Beer on this one. There's something behind what's happening at NXT, whether it's COVID outbreak or just a couple people have it. There's a reason why they're keeping NXT away from Raw and SmackDown. Whatever that reason is, Your guess is as good as mine.
All right, let's move on to Sasha Bailey. What were your thoughts on that, Zach?
I mean, this was a really good match. The only thing I didn't like was there are so many chairs, but they're so focused on one chair. And that was the only thing that took away from like the story of this match. Because I know that like the chair is symbolic, right? Because of the breakup. But like it's not like that chair is incredibly special in comparison to the myriad of other chairs in the cage. So if they were going to do that, then maybe just don't have any other chairs inside while she's trying to get to this other chair, right? That just seemed like a little overcomplicated for me. But that's like a little nitpicky, but it was definitely, I mean, these ladies are great at what they do, and they are obviously at their best when they're facing each other. And, best match on the show.
I'll go like this, and I get the chair part, but I still think because the chair ends up coming full circle at the end of the match where Sasha has Bailey in the bank statement or whatever, and she's using said chair to kind of stomp her ass out. That to me makes it worth it. Do I get what you're saying? Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, it was, cool to see that chair get kicked out of the ring right when the Hell in the Cell started, and then, come back into play at the end. But they end up using it, so it wasn't like it was a dummy prop, like when Bailey was trying to put kendo sticks together, I guess, to hang Sasha with or whatever. The shit didn't work, obviously, because it ends up breaking apart. That to me is like a useless prop. The table ends up being a useless prop. It didn't break, but they end up setting it up. Sasha did the meteor into it, and but it never really broke after that.
It's a cool spot, though.
No, it's a great spot, and I'm not knocking it. It's just the chair is the symbol of betrayal, whatever you want to call it. And at that point, to have it be used at the end of the match to finally get the one title that Sasha never had, I have no problem with it.
I love this match. When we were talking last week, and this is going to sound like quite the comparison, but when we were talking last week about Sonata versus Evil, and if the announcers weren't telling you that those guys had been fighting forever and that they hated each other and that was a real blood feud, that there would have been no way to tell, I think that Bailey and Sasha did the exact opposite. I thought that their body language, the moves that they put on each other, Sasha kind of feeling, as the babyface, kind of feeling bad towards the end about putting Bailey through what she was putting her through, even though Bailey was yelling about her stupid broken neck and shit like that. I loved this match. It exceeded expectations. I mean, to me, that's pro wrestling. That was very dramatic. It was innovative. How many Hell in a Cell matches have we seen? And we saw a couple spots in this one that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
It was really good. And if I know we're not giving these stars, I mean, to me, that's a 4.75 star match.
It was really, really fucking good. And I had somebody laugh at me because I dare suggested that this should have been the main event on Sunday just because of the story leading up to this match. And now what I thought would be the payoff for this match, it's Hell in a Cell. It's going to be brutal. At that point, I expected a good payoff, and it was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think that the only reason that it wasn't the main event was because it would have given the ending away. You're not going to end Hell in a Cell with Bailey standing tall. You might end it with Randy Orton standing tall. Any other thoughts on Sasha Bailey? Two Beer?
No, not really.
I like
Good
it.
pod.
I like the succinctness. We're getting shots opened over here. Hey, cheers, buddy. I'm glad I was right on Friday night.
Go Steelers.
Now that's good pod. Right. All right. So the last Hell in a Cell match was Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. For the record, Zach, we wish you were here. We have shots for you. We're just going to have to do your shots.
Shame.
I know.
Sounds so mad.
Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre was the least of the three for me, but I did like how all three Hell in a Cell matches kind of had their own identity and stood out from each other. Zach, what were your thoughts on McIntyre-Orton?
Yeah, I mean, definitely had a different vibe than the other two. This is not like the one is familial, the other one is nearly familial, but it's just like that long-term partner, best friend rivalry that kind of gives you your best rivalries. And then this is like Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton just being really good professional wrestlers. And I mean, this is why Vince puts Randy with every new champion. Like, every new champion gets a goddamn 3, 4, 5 month Randy Orton feud, and they're usually pretty good, you know. This one has been exceptionally good, and it's kudos to both those guys. My favorite part was Drew taking the Shawn Michaels bump from the 1997 Kiel Center, St. Louis.
Dude, why do you bring
Center.
that up? Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah,
You know how I feel about that.
I was not there. I missed the show.
Tell the listeners what you mean.
It's the one where Shawn's hanging off the cage and Drew also, but they're hanging off like the middle of the cage and then they fall through the announcer's table. So I guess Drew Galloway, the man, was a very big fan of Shawn Michaels, as every professional wrestler is. And really just like wanted to recreate that spot because it meant a lot to him, like growing up. Like, it was like a really cool spot. So yeah, that was dope.
Should have been there.
Jason, thoughts on the match? I'm guessing you were there in 1997?
No, that's my biggest wrestling regret as of this point was, long story short, my father offered me tickets. Him and his girlfriend were going to go. I was like, not really into WWE at this time. You know, Kane, well, shouldn't say Kane, but Taker versus HBK, kind of been there, done that. I don't know what this Hell in a Cell thing is. I'll pass.
You're a nerd.
Stupid. Just one of the greatest matches in WWE history, and I stayed home to smoke weed, you idiot. I agree with Bill on this one. The match itself was the least favorite of my three, but it did have its own individual moments where you have the Shawn Michaels callback or whatever going up to the top of the cell, Randy attacking before the match started. But to be honest, it just felt like, I mean, what more can you really milk out of this, especially when you start with, you know, a kind of a last man, not the last man standing, I'm sorry, but what am I missing? 1, 2, 3. We've had 3 matches. He's won these first 2, and then here's the third. It just feels off that now this is the win. It almost feels like the middle match, whatever it was, Orton should have won it then, have the rematch now, and have it out of the way so that way you can kind of move towards Orton versus Roman. It almost feels like they're getting ready to introduce Drew into this match, but that's another story for another time. I just really feel like it's kind of, this feud is kind of going towards the end, but I don't know if they know how to end it just yet. Drew has to get his rematch. We know this.
Contractually,
he'll get his rematch.
Don't make the quote marks. Don't make air quotes.
No.
Contractually.
We went away from that for like 3 weeks last year, I remember. But
yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
We haven't.
And so I would like to assume that we're going to kind of honor that, but I know we're really not going to. He's going to get his rematch. I would rather him get his rematch in December versus in November. Like I said, the match was okay. It wasn't, in comparison to the other 2 matches, it had less action than Roman and Jay, but Roman and Jay was still a better match. If you had to compare one versus the other, I'd rather watch the Roman Jay match at 45 minutes versus Orton versus Drew at like 30 minutes.
Well, you're looking at, 3 guys that could be considered methodical when you talk about McIntyre or Orton. Orton takes methodical to a new level. and Reigns. Jey Uso's a pretty dynamic performer. Sasha and Bayley are not like those guys at all, obviously. But It was slow. I mean, it started off slow. That's why I don't really like it as the main event. I would have rather had the Roman thing as the main event, just because. Listen, does anybody go back and rewatch Orton matches? Is there a single Orton match? Now, listen, the guy's been in the WWE forever. You watch as much WWE as anybody I've ever met. Is there any Randy Orton match that stands out in your mind for being good? A single one, like
maybe
there are ones that
John Cena had a good few going. You can go there. But see, this is why I will say it like this. I'm an Orton apologist, just in the sense that I think he makes things look too easy, and that goes against him in the long run.
Certainly, he's a natural,
okay,
no doubt, and he's got the. He knows his character. He does the slither thing when he's invested. Yes, of course, he's such a fucking professional. And we've probably said 3 times on this podcast in 3 different feuds, Orton's doing the work of his career. I don't know if that says how good he's doing now or how little we think of the rest of his career, though. And I like Orton too. He's a great wrestler. Nobody's putting Orton on their Mount Rushmore.
No.
Nobody goes back and rewatches Orton matches. Not a single one.
Now, if it's like Hell in a Cell and he has a great Hell in a Cell match, then yeah. Go ahead.
Can you name one?
Jump in. Ooh.
Can you name a good... Please,
I would just
Tuber.
say Orton's probably the greatest enhancement wrestler that's ever lived.
Ooh.
He's got 15 titles.
14. Hang on.
14 titles.
Say, is that the definition of a backhanded compliment?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a
also just
definition of a front-handed insult.
God bless him.
No, that's an insult.
He's just, and it's the same reason Vince puts like Ziggler with these guys. Like, he makes everybody look better than they would with other people. Like, he just makes guys look really good, and he's capable of being a top guy. Like, obviously, he's been acting like a top guy like since this pandemic. Roman was gone. Like, Randy was the most interesting storyline of the pandemic era of WWE, like, main roster. Bayley and Sasha were the most entertaining, like, on-screen personalities, but as far as like interesting stories, it's been Randy, and then their good booking of Drew. And so I mean, like, he's definitely like a top guy, but the reason I say that is, it's kind of like, Bret Hart, like, for instance, like, Bret Hart was capable of making anybody look phenomenal. Like, there's a reason, like, we had like 6 months of Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Like, he just could make anybody look decent.
Okay, so you stole my thunder. Here's my question: did Randy Orton look good coming out of that, or did Jinder Mahal look good coming out of that?
I mean, my biggest takeaway was like Randy killing the Singh brothers like every week. Like, that's all I remember.
Yeah, I remember the Punjabi prison match.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Where you couldn't see what was going on inside the ring.
Okay,
because of all the fucking bamboo or whatever the fuck it's called.
I think that's kind of
no offense to my Indian brothers out there.
Right, I was going to say, please don't make it say
or
harder
pandas.
It's not bamboo. I forget what it's called.
I'm not even going to try it.
Don't.
I guess my point is, when you have Jinder Mahal as your clay, to mold or whatever, and all we kind of remember is him bouncing the Singh brothers off of tables, whatever the case may be, it's kind of hard to say that Orton is enhancement. I think he's past enhancement. I mean, okay, and remember matches. The time that he drove Mick Foley through the... No.
We're not doing this. Like, I asked you if there were any Randy Orton matches that you... I know, and it took you fucking 7 minutes to come up with one.
Damn it, I just took a shot.
We're not doing this. It's bad pod. It's bad pod. All I'm saying is, no, the answer was no.
Yes, the answer is yes. It just took me a
little bit. And you had to go back to Mick Foley?
Damn right. You got to start somewhere.
Listen, Zach, are you cool with Orton having the belt now?
Yeah, I mean, I do not think that Drew is done by any means.
I don't either.
If it came across as like, I was not okay with Brock taking it from Kofi in the manner in which he did. Like, this was not that. Like, this was a grueling 30-minute battle in a damn cage.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't think that McIntyre lost anything.
No.
Yeah, like, he did not lose any momentum at all. And
If anything, he was protected again.
Yeah, they've done a great job booking him. Like, I mean, pandemic era WWE, I mean, this is hard to be the champion, and he has managed, like, really well. And I think he's, like, matured a lot, and he's grown.
As a babyface,
like,
too. It's
For
hard.
sure.
It's harder to be a
babyface
babyface
in WWE in 2020. It's hard,
because
really hard.
because they always book them so dumb.
Yeah, I was gonna say, come on now. I was about to say, isn't this the same fucking trick you fell for the last 4 times? You don't see this one coming?
So you know what my favorite and I'm not doing this just for the smooth segue that I'm about to introduce, but one of my favorite Orton moments is when in 2010. When Miz came out to cash in on Orton at the end of a Raw. And he did the skull-crushing finale on him, and the crowd was going nuts. And Orton...
Great cash in.
Orton kicked out at like 2.9999999 seconds. He kicked out so late, and the place went nuts. And then him and Miz, after he had just gotten his ass kicked by somebody, I can't remember who it was, him and Miz went on to have like this 4 or 5 minute match that was about as intriguing of a match as you could see because everybody was waiting for Miz to fuck up on the Money in the Bank. And Orton was a babyface at the time. So, like I said, that's a smooth segue into something we really haven't talked about, but we've talked about on the podcast is that I asked you guys last week, is Otis winning the Money in the Bank the worst booking decision that WWE has ever made? And they were listening because the day after the podcast came out, they set up Otis versus Miz. I wish we would have been able to predict this because it would have been fun.
Right.
Speaking of, you guys did great. I did terrible. We'll get back to it later. We only did 4 matches, but Miz now has the Money in the Bank. What do you think, Jay?
No, I'm willing to at least lean towards your way that this is one of the worst booking decisions ever because immediately where Miz comes out on Monday and is teasing who I'm going to cash in on. I just did it to Randy Orton 10 years ago. You know, it's just different. Otis would have made sense if the world stayed the same. You can have him lose to Roman at any given point. No big deal. You could have had him lose to Drew McIntyre. No big deal. If it was me and the world was right and I had the pin, lose it in a tag team. Lose it to Sami Zayn or whatever. Ultimately, I think they did this for shock value. It didn't work. And now, especially when you don't have fans, it's really not going to work. So you give it to Miz, give it to somebody that's been there, done that. Like I said on Twitter, if he loses tomorrow, it's not a big deal. If Otis loses tomorrow, it's kind of a bigger deal because Otis has an uphill climb to do it. See Damian Sandow, see...
okay, that's the exact opposite way that I was going to go with it. Okay. Zach, what do you think?
My biggest problem is not that Otis doesn't have it anymore. It is that if you are like doing almost like a tag team versus tag team rivalry, you got Miz and Morrison versus Tucker and Otis, Heavy Machinery, and you have the choice of doing a match between Otis and either Miz or John Morrison. Why is John Morrison not in the ring and Miz on the sideline doing the talking and the hyping up? Because obviously one of those guys is 50 times better than the other at being a top guy, because we've seen him, Morrison, in top guy positions all over the world. And he's also way better in the ring. And he can talk on his own without even having Miz. And it elevates John Morrison, who's done fuck all this entire time in WWE so far, except, dick around with his buddy The Miz. Morrison's a top guy, right? He's top guy material. Vince doesn't see him that way. Vince just slotted him right back into where he was before he left.
Well, also, Miz has those shows on USA.
Yeah. It's just bonkers to me. I feel like you give it to Otis. You're trying to elevate somebody, like that's the Money in the Bank does.
Which it should be.
Miz
But go
doesn't
ahead.
need help. Morrison needs the help, and they're on like the same team. Like, why not just have Morrison do it? It just goes to show like Vince has no faith in John Morrison.
You know
at
what?
all.
I'll admit, it never even occurred to me that Morrison should have it instead of Miz. Never even occurred to me. All that occurred to me was that Otis didn't have it anymore, and all of a sudden Miz opens up Raw, coming out, talking to Drew McIntyre, holding the Money in the Case briefcase, and I'm like,
it feels different.
of course, now it's in play.
Right.
It's never been in play.
For a hot minute.
It's been a comedy thing since Money in the Bank with Otis and Mandy Rose, and before that, it was fucking Brock Lesnar. It's been so long since we had somebody who's actually a menace with it.
And that's what kind of my point with...
That's my big takeaway. I get Zach's point about why wouldn't you put it on Morrison? That would be fun.
Right. It's always...
It just never even occurred to me.
No, it's always, to me, Money in the Bank should be a two-part thing. It should be somebody that's in the mid-card that, in theory, should not have been a champion at this point. So now, if you want to pull the trigger, you can pull the trigger and make them the first
CM Punk
champion.
in 05.
Okay. But
Edge in 04 or whatever.
But the second thing
Baron
is...
Corbin in 18. Wait.
You ain't shit. But the second part about it is that where you have this opportunity to elevate, if you don't want to do it, then that's fine. But don't put it on Otis. Make sure that it's a scenario where Aleister Black was I'm pretty sure the guy who said that should have won it at the time. Where's Aleister Black
I think you and I both picked him. Yes.
Okay. If you would have went with Aleister Black at that point, now you could. Yeah, I was going to say you got the damn.
Let me see if it's in this notepad.
It's just different. That's what to me Money in the Bank is. It's to give the guy that doesn't have a chance to be in a main event spot the chance to get in the main event spot, and God forbid,
it's basically what the Intercontinental belt used to
be. It was the bridge to the championship. This is a even faster bridge, dare I say, the express lane to the championship. The Miz cash-in was great. Obviously, Seth Rollins is the greatest cash-in of all time. So it's there to be had. Otis wasn't that
greatest WrestleMania moment of all time.
No, I'm not going to do this. Otis was good at the time, but it could have been better with people there. It's not there.
But no, it wasn't good at the time. It wasn't good at the time.
It was good just because, in the sense that...
No, it wasn't.
It was a surprise. And, okay, this is you guys with the palate cleanser. Comedy and wrestling is good. That's your palate cleanser. That was the palate cleanser. Okay? I didn't want Otis to be the champ or be Money in the Bank winner.
Yeah, you did.
Whatever. He just so happened that the shit literally fell into his lap. And that's what Miz was saying in the courtroom. Okay? The bottom line is that... Yeah, Law and Otis. Hashtag Law and Otis. Never mind.
I don't watch SmackDown. Dude.
Yeah, clearly you don't. I'm calling the hashtag. Here's the palate cleanser, and that's what it is. I don't like it, but here it is. Let's just get it out of the way. So now Otis costs up the Money in the Bank briefcase. You give it to Miz, and then, like we said, immediately on Monday, the briefcase is back in play. I don't think he's
and it's intriguing.
I don't think he's going to cash it in on Monday, but now it's back in play in the way it should be on a weekly basis.
It's fun just to have the Money in the Bank briefcase around and have some heel tease everybody with
just
it all the time.
Oh, you going 20 minutes? Oh, I can cash it in.
Zach, any last thoughts on Hell in a Cell 2020?
No.
This motherfucker. It's a podcast, man.
Thank you for throwing it to me, but I grow weary.
It's an audible medium. Let's get to that 2 count.
1, 2, 3.
2 beer. What's the 2 count?
Mostly, I just wanted to get to this because this was like my favorite thing this week. NXT Halloween Havoc. At first, whenever I saw that they were doing this, I'm a big Halloween fan. I always loved Halloween Havoc, brought to you normally by Snickers whenever I was growing up.
Right.
It's, 1997 Halloween Havoc, we had like Ray versus Eddie. It's like one of the best like wrestling matches like ever. It was just always like a really fun show. And, I was like, oh, here goes WWE cashing in on, they did the Great American Bash, all these WCW things. And I just didn't have like super high hopes for it, but I think they nailed it. Like, this show had a really excellent, unique feel. It was different than a normal NXT weekly show. They did a lot of cool stuff with, dressing up the Performance Center, the ring ropes being orange, turnbuckles being black. They had build-ups to the matches, even if they were rematches like from the previous pay-per-view. At least like it's an ongoing like storyline. It wasn't just like something that was thrown together. This was just good, and Shotzi Blackheart was being the best Shotzi Blackheart she could be. Like, even though she wasn't on there like a whole bunch, like the parts that she was on there were like pretty awesome. We had Poppy. I don't know who that dude was, like ripping the guitar, but like he was kick ass.
Oh, in the opening match or whatever for Damian Priest.
Playing Damian Priest like music. But I mean, really fun show. Opened up with Damian Priest versus Johnny Gargano. This has been really fun. We've talked about it over the past like few weeks. Even being like a Johnny Gargano mark, this was weird to me that he took the belt. Like, he had help, obviously, heel stuff. That person in the Scream mask was supposed to be like Indy Hartwell, but she's out because of the COVID scare at the Performance Center. So they just had to like do somebody in a costume. Apparently, this is what reading the dirt sheets.
I kind of thought it was supposed to be Austin Theory because he quit the week before or something.
That was my guess, but go ahead.
Oh, it could have been. It looked like a guy, but maybe Indy Hartwell was supposed to be the one like later on. But anyway, like. It was a Devil's Playground, essentially just a Falls Count Anywhere match, and there was some heel fuckery. And, Johnny went over, which, like I said, super surprising. Not the way I would have booked it. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, see where they're going with it. Johnny Gargano just doesn't need a belt. Johnny Gargano is NXT Mount Rushmore, NXT royalty. Like, I wouldn't say you can be like, treat him like Ziggler, like you can't like beat him like a drum, but you can have him beating people like every couple weeks, like, younger guys, and then they get a big win over him and Takeover, and he's still Johnny Takeover, right? Nothing's going to take that away. Like, you got to really kick his dick in the dirt to like give it to wipe off any kind of shine that Johnny has. I just don't think he needs the belt. And Damian Priest has been so excellent with this title, and it has really elevated him and like brought him the confidence that I feel like he needed to actually start getting over, and he was really over with me. So that just surprised me.
I totally agree. I thought there was no way they were going to take it off of Priest just because he's been so good in this babyface role that I really didn't expect him to be good in. And it was a surprise to me, and it was the start of a surprise show of NXT.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just say this. And I've been kind of critical about Damian Priest as an NXT guy. I really wasn't feeling him as Damian Priest versus Punishment Martinez. This was really the first time where I felt like the build, the investment into Damian Priest was finally starting to pay off. He had the cool entrance. He's won, a bunch of matches, defended the title, a handful of times, and now here's Johnny Gargano in a spot again where you can really kind of put him over and make him a solidified, bona fide, like, top star or whatever. Granted, this is a mid-card title, but at some point he's going to lose and then, go after the NXT title. I agree with you guys. It was weird just for the fact that I expected this to be the title defense. And then when it wasn't, it was just kind of like, oh, what? This is how it's happening. I mean, Gargano, I agree. Gargano doesn't need it. I mean, he's been there, done that. I'm not saying he needs to be like Ziggler where he's a turnstile, but on the same aspect, you kind of need to have him put guys over and establish a new roster of NXT going forward. I would assume Damian Priest is going to be here for the foreseeable calendar year and then some. a good time to do it to cement him as one of those guys. They didn't. I mean, the match was good. It's just, like I said, the ending was weird just because I expected one thing and they gave me the other.
I mean, if that is your kind of match, then yeah, the match was good. I don't like the out of the ring stuff all that much, but that's just me.
Okay,
I'm on the record.
Unless you're Minoru Suzuki or John Moxley, I'm usually the same way.
Okay,
But I
mean,
thought they did a good job.
But this is okay. Coming into this, it was kind of like Hell in a Cell. It's a gimmick kind of pay-per-view. So as much as I don't want to see, and I don't want to start giving stuff away, Cameron Grimes versus Dexter Lumis was good visually, but it's not the match I want to see. So I get that. Okay? At the end of the day,
Cameron Grimes seeing that zombie referee and asking him if it's pinfall or submission made me laugh so fucking hard, man. Cameron Grimes was all in on that match.
And that,
Dude,
to me,
he actually, and I mean, a perfect segue. He made that match enjoyable. What could have been a total flop, and it could have flopped so hard. And I'll give props to him for doing something creative and gimmicky. It's a gimmick show, right? Like it's a Halloween show.
Yeah, and it was a cinematic match that are getting more popular.
No, but it should have been. Okay,
I get it.
Walking into it, this is not
Sure.
going to be in the ring. Granted, it finished in the ring, but we can start outside. Go ahead, Tubeer. I'm sorry.
Best thing I've seen Dexter Lumis in by far. But like you said, Cameron Grimes is so all in with this match, and he's so good with his character. I don't know if any of you guys have ever played like Red Dead Redemption 2, but this guy, Cameron Grimes, just seems like an extra on Red Dead Redemption 2, which is just like in like the Pioneer, like Wild West. And like there's a time whenever like he's like wandering through the thing and he's being such a chicken shit heel, but he's just trying to put on this bravado. And he's like, Lumis, you're in here with Cameron Grimes.
It really,
Oh, man.
he really was funny.
Cameron Grimes is one of my favorites, even before he got to when he was in Impact. I liked him in Impact, and I think he's just
Trevor Lee.
I think he's just gotten better over time.
He couldn't beat Trevor Lee because we would have gotten him mixed up with Keith Lee because they're very similar.
Shit.
And Brody Lee.
That's what I was saying. Don't
Yeah.
don't even get me started. Go ahead.
I'm telling you,
And Zia Lee.
I was
Horrible, dude.
I was flipping in between because it was the 8 o'clock thing, and
I don't know how you
AEW
guys do that.
was on commercial. I go back and watch the stuff that I didn't see, but while I'm watching it, I flip back and forth.
I can't.
Oh, I can't.
I'm always on like some pirated stream, so I don't have that option. I just watch like straight through.
I was also reading Moby Dick, which I think a lot of us were doing while we were, flipping
Not
in
so
between
much.
AEW and NXT. But
I always say that Halloween Havoc pairs so well with Herman Melville.
have you ever read it, Zach?
No.
I've been dying to read it for a long time, and it's
English
Cormac McCarthy's favorite book. So
How's an English major not reading Moby Dick?
anyway, I'm telling you, I was flipping back and forth, and on the other one, we're going to get to it, but it was Cody versus Orange Cassidy while the Dexter Lumis Cameron Grimes thing, but it hadn't started. And I'm telling you, when Cameron Grimes asked that zombie referee if it was pinfall or submission, I fucking died laughing. It was the funniest thing. It's the funniest thing he could have said in that moment to that zombie referee. There could have been nothing funnier. That is the line. God damn, that made me laugh. Okay.
That's good.
All right. What else happened?
I did watch this one on Hulu, so like it cuts out a little bit of stuff, and unfortunately Sanchez Escobar defeating Jake Atlas was a casualty, so I cannot comment on it because it was on the Hulu version.
It was also 3 minutes. I mean, it wasn't much.
Oh, okay. Cool. And then we had Rhea Ripley defeat Raquel Gonzalez in a banger of a match. This was really good. Raquel Gonzalez looks so good. We all know Rhea Ripley. Like, we don't have to like expound on our love for Rhea Ripley or our desire for her to be the superstar that she deserves to be because she has such star presence and she's such a great character. But this was really elevated Raquel Gonzalez. And I feel like this thing's been going on for a while. Like, they've been really kind of taking their time with this feud, and it really came to a head, and these ladies are both very powerful, and they beat the shit out of each other for like 15 minutes, and it was dope.
What you think, Jason?
Arguably the best match that Rhea Ripley's had this year. I agree with Two Beard. This was as physical as it gets. I've been kind of wanting Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai to kind of be the tag team champions. It's, don't get me wrong, Nia Jax and Shayna are funny, but I think if we want to elevate and make new stars,
I don't want Shayna to be funny.
I don't want Shayna to be funny either, but, it's...
I don't want Nia Jax to be there at all.
So, like I said, I think a couple of NXT ladies being tag team champions, you can bounce them around from brand to
Shayna
brand.
And Dakota actually date.
Interesting.
Just put that in your mind.
I
I saw somebody giving Shayna shit online, like said something about like her being like too manly, and she's like, whatever, dude. She's like, I'll just keep pulling hotter ass than you ever will. And I was like, oh my god, just nailed him.
See,
man, I was watching. We have this app that we record the podcast on, and it shows the sound waves from when we're talking. And Zach goes, I think Shayna Baszler and Dakota Kai date. And there was just a full 4 inches of nothing. It was like we flatlined, and somebody gave us the jaws of life.
I'm like, yeah, you don't say. Okay. Hey, whatever floats your boat, Shayna. Do you think? Probably could pull more.
Whatever floats your boat, Shayna. Okay,
hey,
all right,
look,
man.
Shit. Hey.
Get in where you fit in.
Probably pulling better ass than I pulled in. If you want to pull it, doing a lineup card, Shayna Baszler versus Jason Bell.
Heating up.
I can give it to Shayna Baszler. It's easier from the women's perspective.
Holy
they trust you.
Shit.
The whole shebang. Okay,
I love podcasting.
That being said, I kind of liked the fact that you could have Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai as a tag team, because I think that's what it's all about. It's about elevating the talent on NXT, and the fact that you, especially when NXT is starting to kind of getting pushed away from Raw and SmackDown, it's about getting new talent in, and especially when you've had, and this is no disrespect to Johnny Gargano and Ciampa and Adam Cole, Undisputed Era as a whole, at some point you got to flip this roster over. So that's why you kind of have like the Pat McAfee's leading in with, sorry, spoiler alert, Pete Dunne, Lorcan and Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch.
Only Lorcan is hard to say.
Andy Hartwell.
In your defense.
This new group of wrestlers that are getting ready to start taking over, I think this is a good way to kind of incorporate them into storylines, and then Austin Theory, and then start working them into the next generation of NXT.
So I thought Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez was another just banger of a women's match in WWE this week. Like,
didn't see it coming.
That's what you want heavyweight wrestling to look like, and they were doing power moves on each other. It wasn't, it wasn't this high flying type of stuff. It was power moves on each other between two chicks that can go, and
one that could go, and then one that proved that she can go.
Yes, Rhea Ripley is, we've said it so many times in this podcast, Rhea Ripley is great. Yeah, Raquel Gonzalez
we know that
showed that she can pull her weight in a big-time match. Rhea Ripley, I'm sure, helped her along, but that was a great match. That was a 15, 16-minute match.
And at some point, we need to start getting other women involved. Toni Storm, I haven't even thought of since we started. So, looking forward.
I have.
Looking forward, Toni Storm, you're going to have, shut up. You got Ember Moon and this next group of women coming forward. Yeah, I think Io Shirai's got a pretty full dance card. And once again, this is where I'm kind of a little disappointed. And maybe, Two Beer, you sent me those articles about NXT and what could be happening COVID-wise. Okay, so there's my question. Where's like the Toni Storms, the Ember Moons of the world, where this feels like a good time to kind of incorporate them in storyline, and we just not seeing them anymore?
Yeah. Apparently, the only person that was supposed to be that was scheduled on that TV that did not make it was Indy Hartwell. But there are a whole bunch of people, and it just seems like what's happening is not necessarily the performers, but since everybody's down there in Florida, it seems to me most often whenever we read this news, it's more often the coaches and the trainers that contract COVID and then spread it to the locker room because they're in close personal contact with these people. And Florida's crazy. All the bars and restaurants and stuff are just like wide open, and people are, going to the beach and
is
hanging
that
out
true?
at these beach bars.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Florida's open?
Florida's been open.
It's been, I was getting ready to say it. I thought the governor
crazy.
came out a while ago and basically was just like, it's open season, and then that's when,
that fucking genius.
And
yeah,
then that's when the University of Florida head coach caught COVID, basically just shut down Gainesville. Dumbasses.
So those investigations that are happening are actually happening on a county level because the governor obviously could give two shits whether anybody gets sick or dies or like whatever. All he cares about is tourism dollars. And so like the individual counties that these places are in are actually investigating. WWE is not the only one, but it's just that WWE has so many places that they're running out of, Amway Center, Performance Center, and that's why they're not at Full Sail, I'm guessing, because all of a sudden they had to remove themselves from Full Sail and do this CWC, and I'm sure it has something to do with the college, But anyway, regardless, it's a mess. But you mentioned the Pat McAfee thing, which very long promo, excellent. You got Oni Lorcan and David Birch, which both these guys are fantastic. Oni Lorcan has a great social media account, but I don't know like how well he talks like on the mic, and Pat McAfee talks on the mic better than most, and just totally nailed this thing.
Just
really
better. I mean, we talked about it at that takeover. Pat McAfee is better than almost anybody.
He's so good. Like, it's crazy how good he is in the ring and like how good he is at doing what he's doing. Like, I want to hate the guy because I think just personally he's like a douche, but I respect his respect for the business.
Have I said this before on this podcast that he seems like the type of guy that's real into Barstool Sports or something?
I think you have. And it kind of actually he's from Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh native.
Is that where Barstool's from?
No, I think that's Boston, but I mean maybe that's that
yeah,
coast kind of feel.
Tomato.
Yeah, whatever.
Just that shit
Boston fans.
Just that shit fucking attitude where he thinks he's better than you and he wants to fight it all the time. It's not like us. It's not like us genteel Midwesterners. You know what I mean?
We just think you're better. We don't want to fight.
Yeah, we don't really want to fight. He does seem like an asshole, but he is great on the mic and great in the ring. And
without question.
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, this was absolutely killer. And then Kyle O'Reilly interrupts, and he's got no backup, right? Because everybody's gone like in the Undisputed Era. So out comes the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne, one of my all-time faves anymore. Like, this guy comes out.
I legit started marking out at this point. I was like, fuck
this guy
yeah.
Comes out with, like, I'd seen on Instagram and like Twitter and stuff, like he's on like a plant-based diet and he's been really working hard. This guy came out with like a totally different body.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, if there is any kind of fat on him, it's minuscule at best, but go ahead.
Dude, just shredded.
Right.
And he's already just like a mean looking dude. Like, the guy is a total sweetheart as like a person. Like, he's awesome. All as far as like, I've never met him, but as far as like,
but he's got a face like one of the vampires in 30 Days of Night. Have you guys ever seen 30 Days of Night with Josh Hartnett?
Yeah, I was gonna go Lost Boys, but that's okay.
I thought you were gonna say Lost Boys. Yeah,
but he does have that face. He's like snarling, and his teeth look kind of fucked up, probably because he's British.
See,
but
you ain't shit.
British.
No.
Probably because he's British.
No, see, you ain't supposed to say that shit. That's fucked up.
They don't listen.
Yes, actually, they do listen. You'd be surprised.
I love my Britain people.
Right. Keep the 2 or 3 we got on our side. No, I'll say it like this.
Me too. Oh, sorry,
no, wrong hashtag. I'll say it like this. I wasn't as excited for Kyle O'Reilly when Pete Dunne came out because I'm always kind of looking for the swerve. And I didn't see it right away. And I really didn't see it until literally Kyle O'Reilly stepped in front of Pete Dunne. And then Pete Dunne kind of still had the chair. And I was like, oh, shit, it's too late. And the next thing you know, the swerve's happening. I love it.
That was right when I saw it, too. I was like,
oh, shit, too late, God. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Kyle O'Reilly's getting that work.
But Jason, what do you think about them as a faction?
I love it.
Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, Pat McAfee as the head, and Pete Dunne.
As to me, the singles guy, the guy that's going to challenge.
I think Danny Burch is British, too.
Right? Yeah, I'm just about to say, I would be stunned if he's not. I'm excited for Pete Dunne versus Adam Cole. That's what makes me get a little giggle in. I'm excited for Pete Dunne versus Kyle O'Reilly. That's going to be immediately just because, you did me dirty, so now I got to give you the receipt. So, I mean, Pete Dunne to me is like the quote-unquote centerpiece of whatever this Pat McAfee faction is. Pat McAfee is going to be the mouthpiece, perfect. And then you got the tag team situation locked up with Lorcan and Burch. I kind of was knocking NXT because it felt like we were kind of going through the motions, not doing anything. Now I'm excited again because this is something that I can look forward to, and it's something that gets me excited. I'm always a faction guy to begin with, and now bringing in Pete Dunne as the head of this faction, I think we got a lot to work with.
Well,
whatever this faction.
Pat McAfee's the head of the faction.
He is James J. Dillon. Okay, he can wrestle, but to me, he still talks.
Well, then don't we need another guy?
I wouldn't be against having a fourth guy in this faction. Whatever this, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Toni Storm being the woman in this fourth part.
Zach, what do you think? Do you think this is the end of the faction, or do you think there's another person to come?
I mean, you could go either way. I like the Toni Storm idea. I like having the kind of a British, like all British faction that just like kicks ass. Is Oney Lorcan British or is he?
Nah, he's American. I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now.
Yeah, damn that, he's British now. You Benedict Arnold motherfucker.
Is he just aloof? All right, and anyway, that was a true moment in professional wrestling, and they don't happen that much anymore. Where I got worked, where Pete Dunne came out, turned heel, and I marked out by myself sitting on the couch.
So good.
That's why you watch.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean.
Moving forward, I'm looking forward towards Undisputed Era versus whatever the Pat McAfee faction is.
Yeah, whatever it is, the Pat Pack. Zach, keep us going.
We had grand finale here: Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. We had Io with a great babyface metal entrance. We had Poppy, who's kind of a NXT regular, pretty much like a superstar, but I've seen like she's been around like NXT for like a minute. It's funny, like NXT does a good job of kind of like catching these like up and coming musicians and like getting them in. Like I think that's a Triple H thing. I think he's really like on the nose with that. It's definitely cool, and it usually adds something. It is usually something to like a ring entrance, and I always enjoy it. Anyway, it was good to see Poppy again. That was cool. Io's awesome. And then the Shotzi Blackheart does the wheel, and it's tables, ladders, and scares. And we had just a really good ladder match between two veteran women in the sport, and ends, there's a little bit of fuckery with the Scream Mask person, and
again,
Shotzi gets involved to kind of counteract the Scream Mask person, and then Candice takes a crazy bump from the top of the ladder through a ladder bridge, like on her knees. That was pretty bonkers, but I mean, these ladies are super talented. I really like both of them. I think a heel Candice LeRae has really elevated her, because I feel like her being that baby face, even though I think she can pull it off really well, it was just missing something of a connection with the character. She was just too much of a generic kind of baby face. and didn't have that fire. And I feel like her doing this heel run when she eventually does turn face again, like her and or Johnny, I think it's gonna make that even more impactful. So I really like this. EO retained. I would not have hated since Johnny won earlier and I wasn't expecting it. I kind of expected Candice to win this. I think that would actually be more entertaining television if they were together with the belts, kind of as they had predicted. It would take nothing away from EO, especially with like the fuckery involved, right? Like they both would have cheated to win, and then you could have extended this, got another match out of it, or just moved on and put EO on the main roster, like whatever. I didn't hate it either way, but one of them having the belt without the other, I feel like it would have been a better package deal.
Okay, I'll just go to the match first. I thought the match was really, really good. Probably the second best match of the night after Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. I'll just say this. The spot for me was the swinging neck breaker into the tables or whatever the case may be. I thought that was absolutely amazing. But I guess moving forward, I don't know if I like I'm just not sure if I like the fact that you would have Team Gargano as champions. To me, this is what I like. The fact that you have one as a champion, the other isn't. So that way you kind of have that internal strife of, I love you as husband and wife, but, we're not complete because we're not the champions that, we kind of said we were going to be, that we agree we're going to be. EO shouldn't be losing at this point, as far as I'm concerned. Do I like Candice versus everybody else that's coming down the pike? It makes it a little more interesting, but it would be kind of hard for me to see EO lose at this point. The same way it was hard for me to look at Damian Priest lose to Johnny Gargano. It's probably been made a little easier in the sense that Gargano has been there, done that. Candice LeRae has never won a title, so at that point, if you want to cough up the title to Candice LeRae, no problem. But I think it's going to happen for her. I think it's just going to be one of those things where let's try to get a little more internal strife going in so that way you have that conflict, and then at some point you can get Indy Hartwell back on TV. Candice wins the title. You can go from there.
It was a tremendous week for WWE Wrestling. That was a tremendous match.
Way better than I thought it was going to be.
Between those two. It was must-see television. That was a great ladder match.
No, it was really fucking good. It was really fucking good.
Candice LeRae has never had a problem being crazy out there.
No.
She's had tons of death matches. She's had matches against men. She is definitely a tough person. Io Shirai is, as Zach's been saying for a long time, the best woman on the roster, if not the best woman.
I'm starting to...
Zach's been saying that for a long time.
I'll say sorry,
and
Zach.
Also, we didn't get to this week, but next week, when you guys tune in, we are going to be reviewing the NXT TakeOver event, Chicago, from May of 2017, which is Roderick Strong versus Eric Young, Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne, which I rewatched today, Asuka versus Nikki Cross versus Ruby Riott, Robert Roode versus Kenta, a.k.a. Hideo Itami, and DIY versus AOP. And if you haven't watched that match, I'm not going to give it away, but just watch till the very end, I promise. But we will be getting into that. But getting back to LeRae and Io Shirai, it was a tremendous match, as good as any men's ladders match that we've ever seen. That I think, really, I mean, seriously, they pulled out all the stops.
Well, you didn't know what the stip was, so I mean, just coming in, my expectation was Io is going to retain. How do we get from point A to point B?
And that's not me being reductive to the women at all. I'm just saying to those that might still be out there, Reba, stop eating the cat shit. To those of you that still might not be out there being like, well, I don't really watch the women's stuff, which I don't think there's that many, people that listen to this podcast that think that way. But it was a tremendous match. I was surprised that Io Shirai went over.
Really?
I was. After Gargano won, After Gargano won, and when the person with the scream mask came out, I love that we do a pro wrestling podcast that I can say like, well, when the person with the scream mask came out and walked her up, I really thought that she was winning. I loved the match. NXT last night was tremendous. It was very satisfying. It was well booked and a lot of fun.
I will say this as a guy that hates the fact that WWE/NXT uses WCW kind of gimmicks, pay-per-view names. This lived up to the hype. Shotzi Blackheart was really good as the host, even though she wasn't really a host. She came in and came out, but when it was time for her to get involved at the end, she got involved. Matches were good. Even Dexter Lumis, who I am not a fan of, I even liked that match. Whatever. The front part was good. The back part, once they got in the ring, it was what it is. But he won. Ultimately, Halloween Havoc was good, better than I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't a 2 hours wasted at the end of the day. Now, moving forward, that's where I'm looking forward to. I mean, at some point.
Wait, are you saying let's just see how it plays out?
No, I'm not going to say see how it plays out. No, there's certain things I don't like off the jump, and that is what it is. Dexter Lumis is the one guy that leaps off, but I'm looking towards you guys to be telling me this is my palate cleanser. Comedy is good in wrestling, so it's okay. Okay?
Comedy is good in wrestling as long as it's actually funny.
So then, never mind. That's a whole other discussion for
you going to talk about Yano?
Exactly. What's funny and what ain't funny.
I'm just saying, like, comedy's good in wrestling as long as...
Okay.
And I think a lot of things in wrestling are funny that nobody else thinks is funny.
Exactly.
All right, Zach, any last thoughts?
Get in this,
No further comments, Your Honor.
Let's get to that 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
All right, the 3 count's going to be AEW Dynamite from last night, which was also a really good show. I'm not going to pish paw it. Like, it had a bunch of good stuff. We'll start from the beginning. We had Wardlow versus
your own handwriting.
No, I can't say Wardlow. I always want to say Wardlow.
Okay.
Wardlow. He went against Adam Hangman Page. Page ended up going over. This is the best Wardlow's ever looked.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it like this. It was still, it wasn't a good match. It was decent. Once again, you kind of knew where this was going to go, but to me, the biggest takeaway from this match is that they didn't have Wardlow go over with the single finisher. It took the second buckshot lariat to finally get him down and keep him down for the pin.
That's protection, man.
Okay, and I'm perfect with that. I'm not asking for Wardlow to be the guy right now. I'm asking for Wardlow to be the guy 2 or 3 years from now. Him, Jungle Boy, MJF, the next round of AEW guys that I expect to be Scorpio Sky, the next round of guys I expect to be.
You mean after Jericho gets through his next 4 gimmicks and gets them all over?
Yes,
yeah, right.
Matter of fact, this next round of AEW guys I expect to lead the forefront, and Wardlow is going to be a part of that. So you have to kind of keep him strong at all times. You just can't job him out just because you want to see Page versus Omega.
Oh, so you're cool with him taking 2 buckshot lariats?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Zach, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, Wardlow has huge babyface potential. We all know it's coming, and it's a mega slow burn. It's going to be an even slower burn than this Jericho MJF burn. It's, long-term storytelling, and he's got a bright future, and they did the perfect job of, like you guys said, getting this guy over in a loss, and AEW is really good with that. They just are. Like, it's not me being like a mark. I know, like, I get like a lot of comments like, oh yeah, you're just a mark, you just like AEW. It's like, no, I just like good storytelling in any visual medium, and they do a really good job of that without burying the other talent. So we've got, Hangman Adam Page and Wardlow. Who should win this match? Obviously Adam Page, right?
Of course.
How are we going to make this happen without burying the other guy? We just make him look strong, right? It's not that hard. Like, it's really not. It only seems hard because the dominant monopoly on the business for the last 20 years has made it so incredibly complex that people try to like do all these mental gymnastics to like make things like work, and it just doesn't have to. Like Jason said, right now is not Wardlow's time. He's gonna have his time, but he still looks strong. Like, it was the same thing when he lost to Cody. Cody had to jump off the top of a motherfucking cage and do a moonsault, right? Like, just to beat this guy.
I have a great idea for a Zach shirt. It should say 2 beer booking, and on the back it says it's not that hard. Because that's kind of his catchphrase. I was
gonna say, I think it's
kind of his catchphrase. Like,
it needs to all be in the front.
Well, yeah, no, you're right about that. It needs to all be in the front. But Zach loves some simple booking,
right?
Which I don't even disagree with.
In this scenario,
I just think it'd be a cool shirt.
Yeah, well, I agree with that totally.
2 beer booking. It's not that hard. BFR. Right underneath it.
We're all in the front, nothing on the back.
All right, Mox cut.
That could describe a few other things after 2 beers.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that also.
That's say you on your own.
I was like, oh, it's a dick joke too.
Right.
Moxley cut a promo after this that was just. It's one of those things that nobody will think about ever again because it's this 90-second promo in the middle of a Dynamite episode that he's not even in, really. But he cuts this promo where he goes, I've been defending this belt. He goes, but now I'm going to weaponize it. And he was talking about beating Eddie Kingston. And that line is a line that I've never heard before in a promo. And it's just fucking brilliant, man. It's brilliant promo work from John Moxley. Just unbelievable stuff.
I don't even know what weaponizing the title is, but it made me kind of, at least for 30 seconds, be like, what is he talking about? You know, it's
well, he was talking about how Eddie Kingston hadn't earned his shot in terms of the record.
Okay.
And he goes, but I'm offering Eddie Kingston this shot at the title because fuck him, basically. So now I'm using my standing as the AEW title holder
to make this
point, to make this personal, and now I'm going to fuck Eddie Kingston up. And now I want to see him fuck Eddie Kingston up. I want to see Eddie Kingston. I want to see. Go ahead,
Subir.
They're both so good at building these matches, but John Moxley, especially because we keep seeing it, and there's always doses of reality in these John Moxley promos, and like I've said it before, but like he straight up said, "Protect your neck." Right?
Yeah, he did.
I guarantee you this match ends in a chokehold. Like,
yes.
It's just like, that's like, they've already established that. They've already talked about it. Like, he did the same thing whenever, I forget like who it was. It was it Hager or whatever, and he said he was going to break his arm. Right? You know, they worked the arm the entire time. Like, John Moxley is that guy that tells you what he's going to do, and then he goes out and does it. And
almost the switchblade of AEW.
Yeah, the one day that he does not do that is the day that he loses that title. Like, that's it. Like, and it's perfect.
Next up, we had Kingston versus Matt Sydal. Matt Sydal, Mizzou grad, St. Louis born and bred.
I keep forgetting that.
Apparently, he had a business.
He's like friends of friends. Like I'm acquainted to Matt Sydal, but I've never met him. But
like, yeah, he had a couple business classes with my brother Jacob in college.
Small world.
I'm glad that he's working. I'm glad that he's in AEW. Kingston went over. I think I was flipping in between. It was fine. We really got to get to. There's a few things we really got to get to here. Let's go to the town hall next. So the town hall was a lot of things. It was it was satirical. It was funny. But what it did the most is it got us to what's going to be a huge card at Full Gear. Full Gear is looking fucking massive. It's a week from this Saturday. But what it got us to was MJF versus Jericho. If MJF goes over, he is in the inner circle. If he loses, he's not. This is the type of stipulation that only pro wrestling can give you, and only pro wrestling marks can get super excited about. Zach, how excited on a scale of 1 to 10 are you for this match?
This match in particular, I would say I am at an 8.75.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
Because, it definitely, it's been a slow build. There's a lot of storytelling behind it. And
it seems like they kind of get along.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But here's the thing. They're totally peas in a pod, right? MJF is a less athletic young Chris Jericho, right? Only he actually shows even more promise than Chris Jericho did at that time, because MJF, for his age, should not be stealing segments from Chris Jericho. Last week, hugely entertaining segment, MJF overshadowed Chris Jericho.
I'd say last night.
This week he overshadowed him and Eric Bischoff, who was a celebrity camo. And as much as you want to say about Eric Bischoff destroying one of the best wrestling promotions on the planet at the time with bad management, he is an excellent on-screen performer and also a friend of the show. So I'm sorry about that. But the fact that he's 24 years old and overshadowing all of this talent is bonkers. So him in the last AEW pay-per-view where he main evented against Jon Moxley and then showed the world that he could be not only this fun, cutting, total asshole heel, but also a main event wrestler. Dude, these guys are gonna have a great match, even if it's not a barn burner as far as flips and kicks and stuff like that. These guys are gonna have a very good, psychologically based, story-driven professional wrestling match. That was a lot.
I was playing the clip. I know you can't hear the clips, but I was playing the clip from last night where Luchasaurus came up and asked the question, and MJF goes, "Oh, that was a great question for a dinosaur."
65 million years old.
Which really cracked me up. What'd you think of it, Jason?
Oh, come on. You know what I think of it. This is just slowly but surely going to the prophecy I laid out beforehand. It's just now we've gotten a doorway to get us from point A to point B. The segment was good. I'm not a huge fan of the Luchasaurus part of it, but it was still kind of funny. But there's comedy in wrestling. Obviously, Eric Bischoff was a callback for the MJF Orange Cassidy segment.
Well, it's also that it seems like Bischoff is meant to be there as a thorn in the side for Jericho.
Kind of, sort of, yeah, especially when he called him a prima donna, we used to work before and all that other good stuff. So at the end of the day, to me, the segment worked because, even though there was parts of it I didn't like, it was still ultimately funny. And B, more importantly, we're now getting us into a scenario where MJF has to not only wrestle Jericho, which eventually was going to happen, he's got to beat him to get into the inner circle, which...
And he said he'll do anything to do it.
So that means, for me, Santana and Ortiz are the tag team, but one wants MJF in and the other doesn't.
Right.
So does this mean that...
Now we got this nuance.
Right. Options are good. So now it gets my mind to think, can this happen?
And then next week it's MJF and Wardlow versus Ortiz and Sammy Guevara.
So now does Santana sit out? Does he come to ringside? That's why I like having options, just for the simple fact that it keeps me guessing. A good swerve is a good swerve because you don't see it coming. I'm not saying that Santana is going to be a part of that swerve, but ultimately, I think you build it up to now. It gets to the point where MJF takes over the inner circle, and then that's when the big swerve happened. That's where Bullet Club is Bullet Club, because you don't see it coming when they boot out Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, yada, yada, yada.
All right, let's move on to Cody versus Orange Cassidy in a lumberjack match. The lumberjacks really didn't do their job in this match. JR was 100% right. Maybe I'm just old like JR.
No.
But the Lumberjacks didn't do their job in this match. What's the point of having a Lumberjack match because you don't want Dark Order to get involved, and then you have Dark Order in the Lumberjacks? Jason, I can tell you're chomping at the bit.
No, I'll be brief on this
Champing
one.
at the bit.
No, yeah, right. I'll be brief on this one. The high water mark for me was Cody gets punched by Trent in front of Dustin, and Dustin does nothing. That's all I need to know at this point. I know what was going to happen. Cody is going to retain. But, I mean, if you're going to have this train wreck that's going to happen outside the ring, make it a logical train wreck. You are not going to punch my brother in front of me, and then I'm not going to do anything about it. So, okay, granted, Arn Anderson gets a little receipt on the back end, but that's Arn Anderson. You're not going. I would assume that you and Jacob have a decent enough relationship that you are not going to allow your brother to get punched in front of you and not do anything.
Who's punching him? My other brother?
No.
That let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one are you talking about?
Oh yeah, punch him again. No, it's random.
Fuck them all up.
Right? It's random punching Jacob.
No, if a random dude. Yes,
exactly.
I get what you're saying,
and that's all I'm saying. The match was fine, but once again, it goes back to my Roman Reigns argument from beforehand. I don't mind the match being predictable, but just A, makes sense, which that made absolutely no sense, and B, entertaining from point A to point B. It was entertaining. It just didn't make sense at certain points.
What you think, Zach?
Oh, yeah, I thought exactly the same. Like, I really didn't like this, and it was also skeptical, like, whenever they booked this match, like, again, and it's just, like, if you didn't want to beat the guy, then don't book the match, right? Like, we say this with WWE a lot. Like, they always try to find their way to, like, some kind of fucky finish because they don't want to beat either person, and it's like, just don't make the match. Like, we don't need the match that badly, right? Like, so I just didn't like the fact that they introduced this stip, like Jason said, and you said, to make the Dark Order not, be a factor, and then ultimately, like, the Dark Order is just a factor. Like,
true story.
It was just lame, and it was bad storytelling, and it was not typical of their show, especially not typical of a angle involving Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I was going to say that's lazier than we expect from
okay,
AEW.
Can we talk about the other step that we kind of skipped over?
Sure.
Okay, so apparently, well, I shouldn't say apparently, but Young Bucks and FTR have their...
Oh, I was getting there. But go ahead.
Go ahead. Set it up.
Well, the Young Bucks said that if they don't beat FTR at Full Gear, that they will never again challenge for the tag team belts, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, and granted, so this conversation moving forward, none of us talked about it, so this is all going to be our own...
This is all fresh. You never brought this up to me before.
No. Go first. What do you think?
Are we done with Cassidy and Cody? I can be done with Cassidy.
I'm fine with that. We can move on.
Okay. What do I think about that? I think that it...
You know what you're going to say. Just say it. Just say it.
No,
if this was WWE and they did that, what would you say?
No, but it's not an event.
Give them a pass.
No, I'm not going to give him a pass. I'm going to say that it makes it more interesting because Cody already did it and failed, and now it makes me think that the Young Bucks are going to win. I would say that it's interesting going forward, thinking, because I know that Cody already played this trick and it didn't work for him. So now I think that the Young Bucks are actually going to go over. But this is also what I thought last night after Gargano won, is that LeRae was going to win, and then they would be walking around with both belts, and they would be, dickheads about it. What do you think, Zach?
I just think it makes it a little bit too predictable because I just expect them to win now. But, if they didn't, that would be a big shock. I understand, like, it definitely makes it interesting, right? Any kind of, like, stip where it's, like, for all time definitely, like, makes it interesting. And they have not gone back on any stips. I mean, I think the worst example of them going back on a stip is just what we talked about with that last match, there being a lumberjack match that was ineffectual.
Well,
right? But
they also talked about how records were going to mean stuff, and then Eddie Kingston.
No, that's not a step. That's kind
listen,
of.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, generally, they very much do, and they definitely play into it. Like, you know, they mention the records. They absolutely matter. Like, the people that get title shots usually are not people that get beat a bunch. And the thing with Eddie Kingston is he was thrown in because of a COVID thing and because Lance Archer was out. And the match got over, and they're like, well, fuck, like, let's do that again, right? Like, I mean, you got to, like, strike while the iron's hot. And so I totally get that. But generally speaking, yeah, they said they were going to be more stats-based, and I expected a little more out of that, like, as far as, like, you know how baseball and stuff has, like, the wackiest statistics, and, like, this guy is, you know, batting 700 against Sagittarius people whose wives or brothers would start with the letter A, right? You know,
yeah,
like,
but that doesn't put him in the World Series.
yeah. So, you know, I just thought it would be a little bit more stats-based as far as, like, that went, and kind of, you know, that more sports-oriented. But I'm fine with what they've done so far, especially being, like, a fledgling company. But getting back to, you know, just, like, this particular stipulation, the Young Bucks and FTR is the match that everybody wanted before it was even a possibility.
Right.
And it's just, that's what they're working with. And the way that they've gotten to it, like, I can't say I'm, like, in love with it. Like, the Young Bucks being these weird tweeners and stuff, like, it's entertaining and I don't, like, hate it or anything, but it just seems, like I said, like, I'm kind of more, I guess when it comes to wrestling, I like the more kind of, like, black and white aspect. Like, I like the fact of babyface versus heels, and, you know, it seems a little convoluted. It seems like a little too smart, right? And I just don't require that so much. So this stipulation, it's been like a year. It's been a while since Cody did it. Like, it seems fresh in our minds, but it has been a very long time. But I still think it does make it more predictable because, like, I mean, it's the Young Bucks. Like, Cody's going to be fine without that world title, but it's the Young Bucks.
No, I agree. And I wasn't even going with as crazy as it sounds, I wasn't going with the predictable part about it. I was just going with, you know, okay, didn't we just do this? And then from that point, I kind of started to turn myself off on the fact of, you know, what's going to happen, you know, future booking and all that other nonsense. It would be different if the Bucks did this first, or, you know, whatever the case may be. To me, you can call your shot if you want to. I have no problem with being braggadocious. God knows I'm one as braggadocious as they come. Yeah, really and truly. But if you're going to be braggadocious, you better be the first to be braggadocious. Don't be the second, because now the second person that's saying the same thing that the first one is. It's kind of weird to see that. You don't want.
It's almost like they're being supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I'm glad you're saying it. I just don't think that it was necessary. Ultimately, I don't think it's necessary to have a stip on this match at all. You built it up the right way to where now I'm excited for this match. I'm glad that the Young Bucks didn't have a match in the ring, so that way Matt can be on TV but not necessarily, you know, wrestle or whatever, so you can, quote unquote, sell the ankle injury, you know, talk the whole thing up and then get to the step. But I mean, like I said, for me personally, there was no reason in the world to even have this step, because I mean, if there's quote unquote dream matches, we've been talking about this dream match for the better part of a calendar year, maybe even 2+ years. Let's just make it happen. And then if FTR retains, then you can have Bucks come back with this. But just don't come off with it oh, we're just not going to, challenge for the title after the first time. Have them lose.
They have been talking about this match for
a long time.
Since the revival was in WWE.
I was going to go into NXT type shit.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Have the first match, have the Bucks lose in some janky fuckery to now you really feel forced like you have to be pushing the chips in the middle.
I do think it's kind of weird that the Young Bucks are kind of claiming babyface now at the very end after the shit that they pulled. Like, just be some tweeners, just be some heels. Like, whatever. It doesn't matter to me what you guys are going to do, but don't try to claim babyface, right, Zach?
Yeah, I really have not liked that very much. Like I said, even though it's entertaining, I'm just not as into that whole, like, over one thing, over another. Like, give me, like, a clear-cut definition. Yeah, it's fine if you want to work tweener or work heel with an individual match, like Cody did with the TNT title, right? Whenever he was facing pure baby faces, he would work that championship, I'm the champion kind of.
The most famous example when Hogan and Rock fought in Toronto, and Rock went into the match as a babyface and understood that he was fighting heel, and then they switched places. It was so instinctual.
Absolutely, yeah. So, like, have that flexibility, but, like, right now it's confusing to the viewer, and even the announcers don't even know what's going on. And I know that's part of the story, but it's not, like, like the T-shirt says, it's not that hard.
We have got to make that happen.
Yeah, we got to make it. Miro, sorry.
No, I was just going to say Rock versus Hogan, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches, probably my favorite of all time.
Miro and Kip Sabian attacked the Best Friends.
I'll say this real quick. I watched Dark last night, and Miro was one of the guest commentators or whatever, and they talked about this particular segment and the fact that he came on and was like, this was a wedding gift for Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford, blah blah blah. That's as much as I hate the angle, that's what I was really kind of looking for, to be like, okay, I hate the angle, but at least it makes sense. This was a wedding gift to the wedding couple. I'm the best man. And then, at least in my eyes, in Miro's eyes, Best Friends came over and fucked up the wedding gift. So now I'm pissed. That makes sense. From that point, do what you want to do.
It doesn't really... I don't really care. I've been watching wrestling long enough that I don't really care why an angle starts, as long as it makes sense. As long as it makes sense.
So this makes sense. So at that point, when Miro comes in and Kip Sabian comes in and they start beating down Best Friends, now I'm good with this. Now we can see this route we go.
I do like I like Kip Sabian and Miro's chemistry. I hope they don't take too long to get Miro into the TNT championship picture or the big championship picture. If there's been any constant in this podcast, banned from Ringside, it's been that I am a Rusev / Miro mark. I love him. You told me he wasn't a star. He's clearly a star.
This is the best gaslighting in the history of gaslighting, maybe ever.
Oh, my God. How do you figure? What are you talking about, gaslighting?
We just got to go back in the archives. The whole Rusev was a star thing was probably the predominant gimmick of early BFR.
And look.
Yeah, but where's the gaslighting come in?
You said he wasn't a star.
No. I was the one.
He always gets this wrong. Zach always gets this wrong.
I was the one that said that Rusev was not top tier guy.
I'm being a gimmick.
Yes, you always get this. This is probably the third time we've gone over this where you're like, oh yeah, Bill's just lying because Jason likes him. It's like, no, I loved him. I've always loved Rusev / Miro.
Yeah, I like to be a man that admits when he's wrong, especially in this scenario.
Like the baseball thing last week.
No, I'm not wrong on that.
So Serena Deeb wins the NWA Women's title. That is Serena from the Straight Edge Society, right?
If I'm not mistaken, yes.
Okay. Did she have some work done or something? She looks a little different, right?
Skinnier?
That can't be.
I would have to go back and look at it.
All right. Doesn't matter.
I'll go like this. Is it the same woman? I'm going to say yes. Now, from that point, my only problem with this whole thing is that it wasn't even 24 hours ago that, okay, it was Wednesday. So Tuesday, I guess, she won it. Apparently she gets on the flight. Now she's here on Wednesday. I mean, if we're going to play this, cat and mouse game with the NWA, then at least provide us the footage. Give us the YouTube, link, something like that. Because, I mean, now this is the second person that you brought over from NWA. Fuck you. This is the second person that you brought over from NWA to do this shit. So, I mean, let's start making sense of it. Don't hide behind it. That's why I like ROH, because they don't hide behind WWE, New Japan, accompanying labels. If somebody works for this company, then they just say it. Serena Deeb doesn't work for the NWA. She works for AEW at this point. She contracted that shit. So now, if she's going over and getting somebody else's title, wouldn't you want to have that connection? Wouldn't you want to be like, hey, our champion is Sheeta, but, we have other great wrestlers over here that are going out and get other titles. I don't know. The matches itself was good. I love Leo Hirsch. I think she's the next one that should be getting signed that's not signed yet. But to me, once again, logic is not making sense.
Zach,
I don't think AEW shies away from that. I don't know if there's any specific politics involved with that specific transaction, because I know Thunder Rosa is kind of it's a controversial thing right now.
Sounds like she's going to WWE.
WWE is the only one that ignores other promotions. Every other promotion totally recognizes the rest of the other promotions. To one extent or the other, AEW obviously recognizes Japan more than say they're American.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. I was going to say you don't hear them really call WWE out by name, Impact by name. They'll acknowledge New Japan. Okay, Ring of Honor and Impact are the only companies that I can think of off the top of my head that have no problem saying WWE, AEW.
Well, I think it's because so many of their stars have gone to bigger and better things, and they're clutching at, the coattails, right?
I'm of two minds on this. I can totally see where Impact might want to talk, just on the screen right now, Bound for Glory from last week is Eric Young and Rich Swann, and I could totally see why Impact would want to say former WWE Cruiserweight champion or former WWE whatever Eric Young ever won. But I can also see why a company like that might be like, hey, let's acknowledge everybody else except WWE. They don't do anything from us. All we do is feed them. Let's acknowledge everybody else, like a rising tide floats all boats, unless you're talking about WWE. I think I don't think there's a wrong way to go or a right way to go. It's just probably, company by company, right?
I'll say this, and Two-Beer, you can take it from here. If it was me and I could do it and get away with it, I don't want to shy away from the fact that AJ Styles came from company A to company B, and now he's here for company C. You know what I'm saying? I want this to be a scenario where I don't have to convince you that AJ Styles is a star. I don't want to have to convince you that Keith Lee was somebody that was really good in Evolve, but if you haven't seen Evolve, then just take my word for it. He's going to be good here. It should be a scenario where I don't have to hide the fact that he went from this company to that company. I just want to be a scenario where it should be legit, where you don't have to worry about a person being from ROH and now Adam
What do you
Cole.
think, Zach? What do you think about that?
Roderick Strong.
Yeah, it just goes to like what I was saying, where you have guys that have just gone on to do better things in other companies. So, of course, like you're going to mention AJ Styles whenever you are on an Impact show, or a lot of their X Division guys. Whereas WWE doesn't acknowledge it because they think they're the only game in town. AEW will kind of pick and choose because they don't necessarily want to acknowledge Impact because, they jumped in the scene and they're already heads and shoulders above Impact. Like, I enjoy Impact as, like, its thing, but it is very much not an A show, right? It's just a B-rated show. Their women's division is way better than AEW.
I especially feel bad for them because they don't have.
Whoa!
They don't
Say
have
that
fans.
again. Say that again.
What, the women's division? Yeah, Impact's women's division is way better than AEW, but overall, like as a promotion, right? They're just, and it's not even like their fault. They're just recognized as like the B show, and that's to hardcore wrestling fans. Whereas like it's super unfortunate because in the casual audience, the people that don't normally watch wrestling, like WWE is the only game in town, and AEW and like New Japan and these places are completely incidental. Like they almost like don't even exist.
I don't say this. I don't say this lightly. Like AEW's women's division is severely lacking for a promotion that forced its way onto the main scene with a bunch of money and a bunch of stars, and with a mantra or an ethos that seemed like it was going to put a lot of emphasis on the women's division. And their women's division is bad.
Well, here's the thing. Kenny Omega is the head of their women's division.
Is he?
Kenny Omega
if you look at him on Twitter, he's not really trying to claim that much about this women's division. I thought him and Brandy had a little a tete-a-tete amongst themselves where they were basically, you're the head of the women's division. No, you're head of the women's division. So,
I'm the tag team champion.
No, I'm the tag team champion.
As far as all those EVPs go, Kenny is going to be the one that has the most to say about the women's division. And the thing is with Kenny, like obviously, like big Joshi wrestling fan, like we have this pandemic, like we're missing Yuka Sakazaki, right? Like she's doing awesome stuff, like in Stardom, and we're missing like, even like B Priestley, right?
Yeah.
Some of these people that they would have been leaning on that would have added a ton of variety and a ton of talent.
Kylie Ray.
Kylie Ray like had her own thing. She no-showed Impact. She no-showed the Impact pay-per-view. So all those people that act like AEW did something evil to Kylie Ray. Kylie Ray's got her own stuff going on. I don't know what it is, but I hope she works it out. But no showing pay-per-views ain't good. Like it's not a good sign.
All right, let's keep this moving. Sean Spears came out with Tully Blanchard.
Dude, this is so funny.
He squashed a dude. Scorpio Sky came out.
Jason straight up said last week, "Where's Scorpio Sky? Where's Sean Spears?" They're in a feud together now.
Motherfuckers, they heard me.
And they pointed out how good Sean Spears' record was. He's like 14-2.
Right. And I'll say it like this, and now I'll piggyback.
Sean Spears is a no-talent hack that I never want to watch ever again. I'll watch Scorpio Sky fight a broom more than I'll watch Sean Spears fight Scorpio Sky. What do you think, Jason?
He just called Scorpio Sky a janitor.
Right. Zach,
I'm
drinking. Literally, like right here.
We've been doing shots.
Yeah, so I can touch him.
If anybody's still here.
Yeah, if I can touch him right now.
Go to F&B Eatery.
A, and then B, don't incite me, because I can literally touch him, and we could have a brawl right here, and it could go south. I don't have a problem with the Scorpio Sky, Sean Spears feud. I'll just say this. This is where, like last night I was watching AEW Dark or whatever, catching up, and AEW Dark was 2.5 hours. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, so this
That's
leads
not
me to,
even as long as this podcast.
this leads me to believe that AEW really needs the third show. It really needs the third show. I like Dark like anybody else, but to me, AEW Dark is like the developmental show. It's like Superstars, main event 205 Live-ish, whatever the case may be. It should not be 2.5 hours long. If you want to throw it on Friday, fine. If you want to throw it on Thursday, fine. But
you ain't got to watch it.
I'm going
now,
to
here's
watch
the thing.
it.
That's my counterpoint. Like it can be as long as it needs to be to get these wrestlers the ring time that they need to get better. Because you have a bunch of green wrestlers, and you don't got to watch it. It's on YouTube. You can pick and choose. Like
it's the same thing like BTE. I don't watch BTE, but like where you have a John Silver coming in with the Orange Cassidy match. Which I don't watch BTE, but then all of a sudden I'm seeing John Silver as this next guy. He interferes in the Cody versus Orange Cassidy match, and now the next thing I know, I look up, we have Orange Cassidy versus John Silver. To me, my only problem with this one is it feels like I have to watch everything that is not AEW or AEW Dark.
But you don't.
Yeah, you really have to.
No, you don't. I don't.
If you want to keep up with the storylines.
I haven't watched Dark in 6 months.
But you watch BTE, correct?
Not every week. But yeah, I mean, incident, like, here and there.
Out of 4 weeks of the year or 4 weeks of the month, how many times do you watch BTE?
I'd say since the pandemic, like it used to be every week, but since the pandemic, like half the time.
Okay, so it was more so to my point. You're talking to the guy in me that doesn't even watch it versus you that watches it 2 times a month. So you can at least...
it's like little insider stuff. It doesn't even...
Okay, but that's what I'm saying.
I've never watched it.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. John Silver, to me, being over is like, ooh, this is absolutely unbelievable.
I do want to say that I love doing the podcast with you guys, and I'm glad that one of us does this. But there's no way I'm watching AEW after dark.
I'm not... Okay, I'll say it like this.
There's no way I'm watching it.
If it was an hour, I would watch it without question. An hour and a half, it's still good. When it's 2.5 hours and the majority of it is developmental, that's
still watch
my problem. I watch it because, that's what I do. But I mean, damn, at a certain point,
let's move on.
Better.
Let's move on. We have Omega versus Penta. We haven't even gotten to that. We haven't even gotten to the odds and ends. And we're 2 hours in. Omega versus Penta. What did you think of Omega versus Penta? I loved it. What did you think of it, Zach?
The other guy.
I think it, as far as I can remember, from All In, which you were there with me. Both of you guys were.
Barely.
I don't. By the time that main event came around, I don't remember much. But I feel like this was as good as that main event was. And it's a really good match. Definitely. And it went up against, a NXT, women's title match that was also excellent.
And that's exactly what we wanted when we talked about the Wednesday Night Wars. That's exactly what we wanted, man.
Yeah, it was really good.
Can you imagine us a year ago saying, okay, it's going to be Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae in a Halloween Havoc ladder match where they go all out, or it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Penta, all on cable.
All on cable where you have NXT go
pretty
over
amazing
8 minutes or whatever the case may be.
It's amazing.
And that I think that's another thing I think we kind of buried a little bit, where NXT has kind of gone out their way, at least in this week, to go over their 9 o'clock time slot, where I'm finishing AEW. I'm like, okay, so I can turn over to USA, and it's not oh shit, this match is still going on. So I saw the end of the main event to where I was like, okay, yeah, this was good. So let's watch this match, watch the whole thing right away. I'll just say this. The biggest problem with me and just the whole AEW thing is I just wish that it would still just kind of be on point. Not necessarily everything makes sense, but there's certain things that kind of do make sense, and there's other things that don't. NXT is the kind of same way, where I want Austin Theory to be Gargano's understudy, Indy Hartwell kind of be that understudy. So when you get to the main event, where now it's an opportunity to kind of elevate, I don't know if we're elevating anybody. To me, like I said, Io Shirai was the one that I expected to win. It didn't happen, but this, on the same aspect, I kind of want to see other things, other people elevated. I don't know if we're elevating Indy Hartwell. I don't know if we're elevating Austin Theory.
But are we elevating Penta? Because we're talking about KO versus Penta.
Well, Penta was a fill-in because
actually,
Phoenix...
thank you. Take that back. I think we're seeing I think we're seeing the innovation. I'm going to steal this from
Zach.
No, I'm going to steal it from.
Hey, Stoner, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Shut your ass up. I'm trying not to use real
names. I asked you about Kenny Omega versus Penta, and you're talking about Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae.
I'm not trying to use real names. Zach, shut your ass up.
You ain't got to use real names. Just tell me what you thought about Kenny Omega versus Penta.
Phoenix is going to be the next babyface.
All right.
B, I have a hard time with the outside where you have the Destroyer, and then they brought him into the ring with the package pile driver. So now, no, hang on.
Okay, I'm with you.
That to me is a problem. So if you're gonna have somebody take the package pile driver on top of
the package pile driver was badass. Let's talk about that, Zach. What you think about the package pile driver?
Oh man, I mean that's
after
just,
the fact.
That's the spot that I expected. I mean, like we've seen that package pile driver on the apron, like from them at All In. I do remember that.
Zach, would you, as just as a regular dude, would you take a package pile driver from Penta? Like, would you trust him to not break your neck?
Absolutely not.
Because
I have a family.
That takes a lot of trust. And I watched that package pile driver. They showed it over and over and over again 4 or 5 times. And Kenny Omega looked like his neck was almost broken.
I guess there's the problem where it's the combination of one on top of the other. Destroyer should have probably been the pin. If you do Destroyer on top of package pile driver, that definitely should have been the pin. You, of all people, should be the first one jumping up to be all kind of pissed off.
Whoa. What should I be pissed off about?
We're kicking out the finishers. We did back-to-back finishers.
Yeah, but they never kicked out of the one-wing angel.
It's the one that's truly protected in 2020.
But I understand when I'm watching a Kenny Omega match that the one-wing angel is not getting kicked out of. Because it's never been kicked out of.
It shouldn't have.
Right? Never.
I think it's been kicked out of once, but it shouldn't
have. By whom?
Have.
Ibushi?
Two Beer getting this one. I was going to say.
I'm actually, so, like, the hamsters in the wheel is working in my brain. I want to say it's never been kicked out of, but I also feel like there was one time.
I think it was one time.
Sonata was the first guy to kick out of the Kamigoye. So.
Well, that's not what we're talking about, Zach.
I think it was one time that the one-wing angel is basically the most protected.
We are so off the rails. I can't believe that anybody would still be listening. What do you think about KO versus Penta? Did you like it? Was it good? Jason?
Oh, man. KO? You mean Kenny Omega?
Kenny Omega, yeah.
I was thinking Kevin Owens. Like, oh, man, that's a match I would
Thank you. You make me feel good about life. Thank you. I said the same thing.
I guess they all look alike to you. It was a cool match. Really? I really liked the match.
I liked it too. Ultimately, like I said, to me the biggest takeaway is Rey Fenix is going to be a babyface. Coming out of this, it's going to be a matter of when and where, but forcing him out of this match is going to help him as a babyface, and then Penta losing it keeps it going.
What do you think, Zach?
I found the answer. Ibushi was the only one who did it, but it was in DDT.
See? There you go.
That's going to do it for our 3 count.
That was the most disjointed.
You guys are fucking wastoids, man. You guys are fucking wasted. Okay,
I've been
so
drinking Sierra Nevada Celebration for 2 hours.
odds and ends. I know this has been a long podcast. I can't believe anybody would still be listening right now.
I gotta drive my family to Grants Farm. It's a good thing my wife's sober.
Odds and ends. Retribution's done, right?
Yes.
They're gonna save Mustafa Ali. They're done.
No, the whole thing is a Vince parody on what he hates about life and in society in general. It's Retribution is done.
But Ali will be saved, though.
They're
No.
Antifa, only they're actually
Thank you.
Antira, which is anti-ratings.
Agreed.
Instead of anti-fascism.
All right. I'm not even going to pick that apart. I don't even care. It looks like we're getting New Day versus Street Profits at Survivor Series, which sounds fun.
Bill should be fun.
That's Vince saying we'll just put the blacks together.
You stole my thunder, motherfucker. You can't
It's like
steal my
it's like a different world versus Amen. And then
versus Boys 2 Men.
What the fuck? How the white guys making the better jokes than the black man? That's fucking comedy.
that's the funniest joke I've ever told.
Yeah, that was good.
We had Lars Sullivan squashes Shorty G, and Shorty G quits and says, and they came up to him afterwards. They said, "Are you quitting WWE?" He goes, "No, I'm quitting Shorty G.
Good for him.
I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be
Chad
Gable." So
get your name back, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
that's cool to me. It looks like we're getting a Daniel Bryan. We're either getting a Daniel Bryan KO tag team, or we're getting Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn, which sounds incredible on paper.
Give me Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn straight up. I don't want to see KO, wrestling with anybody else. Just give me that and give me the winner gets KO. That's perfect.
Any thoughts on any of this, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're going to not have KO as one of your top guys, like, it's kind of like, with the Jericho, like, tag team, like, why not put them in a tag team? Especially because they have such a terrible tag team division. Like, I'm fine. Like, Daniel Bryan and KO, like, running a tag team division on a brand, that'll make me tune in for the first time, maybe the third time this year.
They're both incredible.
Then that's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen very long, but who cares how long it happens? They had Stone Cold and Triple H on the tag team.
It's not going to happen. I'll just leave it at that. I'd love to see it. Not going to happen.
This is banned from Ringside.
Hey, everybody. We have some birthdays this week. Paul Orndorff, 71. Edge is 47. Bobby the Brain Heenan, R.I.P. Would have been 76 this week. Really just one of the geniuses of pro wrestling of all time.
Last great
he really was. Tyler Rex is 42. Hope you still got them dreads, man. Eli Drake. I'm not making fun of him. I like Tyler Rex. I always liked Tyler Rex.
Corey, we haven't had that conversation, but go ahead.
I liked his feud against Chris Masters on WWE Superstars for like 5 weeks in a row where he lost every single match. Eli Drake is 38. Sharmell is 48. Darren Young, 37. The first openly gay WWE wrestler of all time. God bless. Hope you're doing good out there, man. Samir Singh is 33.
Pat Patterson?
No, Darren Young. I said open.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
Jesus, Zach, you really had to throw a wrench into my shit, dude. I was on a roll. I was doing my thing.
I mean, Pat Patterson.
But Pat Patterson was never openly a gay wrestler.
Okay, that's why I said
fucking good for Pat Patterson. Like, have some balls. Get out there. Be open. Samir Singh is 33. Cameron is 33. And Andrade Cien Almas is 31.
What?
MIA.
Rabbit fever.
Wow.
Middle of
Hey, everybody.
He's 31.
We know there's tons of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you guys listening to ours. For F&B Eatery,
Check.
for Bo Geisman,
Check.
for Xander the Cat,
Happy Cat Day. Check.
for Lucha Chris,
Check.
for Murray the Murray Man Murray,
Check.
for the shots that Jason and I did, for
Check,
Two
check,
Beer
check.
Zach Pullman. Oh, check, or check, and for Jason Cornelius Bell, I am Bill
Check.
Vagey, and everybody boo the heels. Black Lives Matter.